Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from airpass and says, me 27 female with my boyfriend 50 male of 3 months. His kid warned me about him. Red flag? I've been dating Jessie for about 3 months. It's been a bit of a whirlwind romance. Jessie is the kind of guy I've always wanted, confident and smart, and makes me feel like a princess. The sex is great and I feel like we have a deep connection. Last Friday, Jessie and I went out and ran into his son, Julian, 19, at the bar. Julian shouldn't have been there as he is underage, so I assume he had a fake ID. Jessie was excited to see him, but Julian seemed like he didn't want to see Jessie at all. It was very awkward. Later, while Jessie was talking to someone he knew from work, Julian approached me. He told me he'll get tired of you, he won't care about you anymore, and just sees you as something he has to spend money on. Then he'll find something new. He always does. He said he was sorry and then left the bar. I didn't know how to respond, so I talked to Jessie. He told me how his ex-wife and stepdaughters had poisoned Julian against him. I've always known Jessie to be very generous, so I don't believe the money part is true. But I do know that Jessie hardly ever spends time with his son. He says Julian won't answer his calls or texts and avoids him. Jessie also works a significant amount and finds it difficult to balance time. How do I know if this is a red flag or not? This kid could just have a warped perception of his father. I can't help but feel badly for Julian. He seemed really sad at the bar. And look, there's always a chance that this kid was poisoned against Jessie for whatever reason, but I can't quite see it in this scenario just because of everything in the other direction. I mean, the age gap for one, to start off with, right? This 3-month whirlwind romance, making you feel like a princess. And the excuse is like Jessie works too much, yet he's had time for this romance where he showered you with attention, but can't maintain a relationship with his own son. I mean, just felt like there was a whole bunch of red flags to me, but commenter says Julian's mother's the said ex-wife. It'd be pretty messed up to me if a biological child chose his stepmother and stepsisters over his father, and that would be a serious red flag to me. Opie says she is the mother, his sisters are half siblings. Commenter says I'm always surprised at just how biased this subreddit is against relationships with age gaps. It's not like you're 18 and he's preying on your inexperience. You're a grown woman. There's nothing inherently wrong with the age gap in your relationship. Anyway, never let someone else into your relationship. This kid clearly has an agenda, and he probably doesn't have your best interests at heart. This is supported by the fact that Jessie's excitement to see his son only went one way. There's bitterness there, and it's not coming from Jessie. Keep Julian's words in mind in case you see any other red flags, like how did Jessie's previous relationships go? But don't let those words supersede your gut feeling about the relationship. Opie responds saying I'm not worried about the age difference. A little surprised by the responses towards it. Them running into each other was weird. Jessie was excited, but he didn't ask why Julian was drinking underage at the bar. It didn't seem to bother him. Julian drove afterwards as well, and he didn't seem drunk, but I was surprised Jessie didn't say anything. He also didn't seem to notice that Julian seemed awkward running into us, until I mentioned what Julian told me. He didn't seem to have any idea that the encounter was so awkward. I feel like it could go either way so easily. Julian doesn't seem like a bad kid, but Jessie doesn't seem like a bad guy either. Does it have to be one or the other? Commenter says he's a 50-year-old chasing a 27-year-old. Listen to his son. Someone that feels too good to be true usually is. Another commenter says you're 27. He's 50. He's with you because you're significantly younger and have a better body and a higher sex drive than women his own age. Open your eyes. If Julian were 12, then maybe don't believe him, but he's 19. Had his mum poisoned him against Jessie, then Julian would have come to the realization by now that his mum was lying. So it was 3 months after that post that OP came in with an update, and it said, "Hi r/relationships. It's been a couple of months since my last post. Thanks for all the advice, even though it was tough to hear. Ended up decided to move forward with a relationship, but keep an eye out for any other red flags. To backtrack, early in our relationship I got a text from a friend of mine that he had seen Jessie at a local strip club. I spoke to Jesse about it, and he said he did not consider it cheating because he did not get lap dances or touch the dancers. I let him know then that I would let it slide, but in the future, I'm not okay with him going to strip clubs without talking to me about it first. He agreed. But I kept noticing he would be out working late. He told me he had an emergency, flood, and I ended up seeing him at a gas station that I was driving by. I stopped and talked to him, and he said he'd just gotten out of work, but he smelled like cigarettes and alcohol, and his clothes weren't dirty like they typically are when he works flood damages. I also noticed he was very protective of his work phone. He leaves his other cell phone out all the time, but once I asked to use his work phone to look something up, and he basically told me no, and to go get my phone charging in the other room. It all just built up, so I snooped. I got up in the middle of the night when I was staying at his place and looked through both phones. On his work phone, I found texts to escorts and strippers. On his other cell, I found a ton of texts to his ex-wife, who he promised me he didn't talk to anymore unless it was about Julian. Apparently she just started dating again a month ago, and he absolutely shredded her for it. He said some very cruel things, like, "You must have found a guy who loves fat asses if he'd be seen with you." She never replied as far as I can tell. Looking at those texts, I knew that any future with Jesse was going to end like this. I also saw that he never messages Julian. What's worse, their text feed is Julian reaching out every couple of months and getting ignored. One text from a few months ago was Julian telling him that his band had a gig and asking if he would come. I remember that weekend. Me and Jesse stayed in that night and had a bunch of sex. He never even mentioned his son had a show. I felt sick. I went online and bought 10 copies of his band's EP a few days later. In the end, I decided to just ghost him. He obviously had no respect for our relationship, and I felt I didn't owe him anything. When he was at work, I got all my things out of his apartment and left a note. I just wrote that his family was right about him and to not contact me again. He texted me later that he had an emergency and had to work late. He obviously hadn't seen my note, and I just didn't respond. The next day he found the note and started messaging me about it. I decided to take a page from his ex-wife's book and ignore him. As the week moved on and he realized I was serious, the messages started getting hateful. Things I don't care to repeat. I blocked his number then. It's disturbing for me to think about what a cruel and vicious person he ended up being. If Julian hadn't talked to me at that bar, how much longer would it have taken me to see this side of him? I also have this weird guilty feeling that I'm a homewrecker, even though Jesse obviously wrecked his home himself. I really thought of me and Jesse as having a potential for a long-term relationship. It hurts to have these hopes crushed. I'm not getting any younger. I got a lot of comments on the last post about the age gap. I'm not really interested in that. I know several couples with significant age gaps. I'm a grown woman, not a teenager, and I can choose to date someone older. Hopefully it won't be an arsehole next time. Edit, thanks for teaching me a lesson. This is a painful time for me. I won't be responding to any more comments or PMs. Thanks. Top commenter says to OP, good on you for getting out. Think about dropping a note to Julian so you can thank him for the warning. The kid might feel better for knowing that his warning helps someone for once. Besides, it can be validating when dealing with an abusive arsehole. Have someone else go, yep, he's a jerk alright, and you were right. OP says I did consider it, but I felt like I am probably the last person he wants to hear from. Another commenter says, the age difference is a big thing. Do you relate to someone who is 23 years older than you? If you intend to be with this person for the foreseeable future, have you considered that in 10 years, when you're not even 40 yet, he will be 60? Yes, you're a grown woman, but why so much older? There's a reason people are making comments. But you're right, it's your life. If you're not interested in advice, don't take it, or ask for it. Opie says, I obviously don't see myself with him in the future because I broke it off with him. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Cassmiere, who says, coworker 50s gave us 20-somethings tickets to a performance his wife set up, and now we owe them $360. Obviously, we're in shock. A senior co-worker, let's call him Scott, came up to a co-worker of ours, Rebecca, with tickets to a performance his wife set up. He gave her 6 tickets to the performance and told her that his wife was looking for singers in future performances and they wanted her to check it out. At no time did he mention price or buying the tickets. He literally just gave her the tickets and invited her to go. He didn't even really tell her what the event was. He didn't mention there would be food or anything. She invited 5 of us to go with her to check it out. We all believed it was free because usually when you get tickets, they've already been paid for. Plus, he didn't say anything about paying for them. On the tickets, there were 3 prices: $25, $50, and $60. We all ate before we got there because we weren't aware that there was dinner with it. We showed up 5 minutes late with the tickets and then Scott was at the table taking tickets. He told us to take a seat and he'd get the tickets later. We didn't think anything of it and grabbed a seat. They ended up bringing a plate of appetizers around and then the performance started. The performance was interesting, belly dancers and some circus type stuff, and lasted about 20 minutes max. After it ended, we munched on some appetizers and chatted for a bit. They started bringing food around, but we'd already eaten dinner, so we got up to leave. As we were leaving, Scott's wife stopped us and said there was a misunderstanding and we had to pay. We asked how much, and she told us $60 each ticket. She told us we should just stay and eat the dinner they were serving because we were going to pay for it anyways. She also looked incredibly pissed off and angry at us. She told Rebecca to bring the money to work on Monday to give to Scott. We left without touching the dinner and with a bad taste in our mouth. She didn't even give us the option of paying $25 for just the performance. Here's the thing, we can't afford it. None of us would have gone if we had known it would be $60. In fact, we went mostly as a favor to our co-worker's wife and weren't super excited about it. If they had told us at the door it was $60, we would have gone home. Now it's awkward because we don't know how to approach it with Scott. He has a higher position than us in the company and we don't want to step on his toes or insult his wife. But on the other hand, we feel that we were scammed and we all can't afford this. How do we go about dealing with this issue? Should we refuse to pay them back, even if it creates an awkward workplace? Should we just consider it a loss and pay up? Did we fuck up because we expected them to be free? Reddit, what do you think? What should we do? Within the same post, Opie adds a little update and says, "Whoa, this blew up. Thanks for all your comments and helpful advice. I obviously can't get back to all of you, but I've read all of your comments. I've sent this page to my co-workers so they could read through as well. We've all decided to talk to Scott tomorrow and see what he says. We are hoping he apologizes for the miscommunication with his wife and eats the cost. If he demands the money, we've decided the most we are willing to pay is 50% of the tickets, $30 each. More than anything, that is just to keep the peace at work because he is our superior. Still bullshit, but it is what it is. If there are further issues, we will bring it to our company's attention. Obviously, we will never deal with this man outside of a professional work environment ever again. I will update tomorrow with what he says and how the conversation works out. Thanks again, you wonderful Redditors." Clarity says in quote, Scott's wife stopped us and said there was a misunderstanding and we had to pay, and then says, Scott gave Rebecca the tickets. Scott's wife needs to collect the money from Scott since it was Scott who gave the tickets away. The misunderstanding is between Scott and his wife, not between Scott and Rebecca. Opie replies saying, "I'm wondering if this is it. Like maybe there was miscommunication between the two of them. He told Rebecca his wife was looking for singers for upcoming performances, and that's why he wanted her to check it out. Maybe he thought his wife wanted him to get new talent for free, and that's why he offered the tickets. Regardless, how do we refuse to pay without insulting anyone? Should we just wait to see if he asks for the cash?" Another commenter says, "This sounds really suspicious on the part of the wife and Scott. Who goes up to someone and says, there's been a misunderstanding and you have to pay in that way? How did she know you hadn't already paid? Assuming Scott had told her no one had paid, wouldn't it make sense to say, could you guys pay now or pay Scott when you see him next? Saying there's been a misunderstanding and you actually have to pay suggests she knew you didn't know you had to cover the cost of the tickets. That could be a deliberate trap on their part, or she found out Scott gave away tickets for free and was pissed so tried to demand the money. Either way, it's super shady." Night Owl Eyes says, "Whoa, okay, if someone gives you a gift, that's a gift, full stop. If he didn't tell you the performance was going to cost money before he offered the tickets, that's on him and he needs to eat the cost. It's incredibly dishonest to do what he did." Opie says, that's how I feel about it. I don't understand why he didn't just say, oh, by the way, it's $60 each. How hard is that? Especially when we were at the door. Why let us in without paying? It seems super shady and unfair to me. Another commenter says, everyone knows that if you sell something, the price needs to be discussed in advance. Quantum Fog says in quotes, at no time did he mention the price or buying the tickets, and then says, I'm curious to know exactly how the conversation went between Scott and Rebecca when he gave her the tickets. Seems that all involved should get into the same room and listen to their explanation. If it appears this will have some effect on working conditions, bring Scott's boss into the meeting. He or she won't have to do anything. Just be an impartial advisor. Opie says, according to R, he dropped the tickets on her desk and said his wife was creating a performance company and wanted future singers/actresses for her upcoming performances. R is a fantastic singer/musician. He said she should check it out to see if she was interested. He never mentioned the money. Obviously, we would never agree to go to an expensive performance we can't afford. She invited us along to watch it because he dropped off 6 tickets in total. Fingers crossed this won't get to the point of getting the boss involved. We don't have HR in our company, so the boss is the next step, I guess. So it was a couple of days after this that Opie did come in with their update, and they said, so a few days ago I posted here asking advice about a situation involving a superior of ours, his wife and 5 co-workers of mine. My superior gave us tickets to his wife's show. He never mentioned we had to pay, and his wife asked us to pony up $60 a ticket as we were leaving. Well, today we went to work and confronted him about the tickets. For those of you who thought he was embarrassed about the situation, you are absolutely correct. He apologized, saying he didn't know we had to pay for them and he would talk to his wife about it. He also asked if we thought any differently of him and if this was going to cause any issues at work. Clearly, he was aware of how shady this whole thing came across and was worried it would wreck his work relationships. He made it clear that he doesn't expect us to pay for the tickets, and I'm assuming from this point forwards, the issue is between him and his wife. So if you said he'd be mortified and it was miscommunication between him and his wife, you were right. Thanks again, Reddit, for all of your advice. It really gave us something to think about and helped us come up with a game plan. Keep it cool. I mean, for me after this, I still found it a bit weird that she was so aggressively demanding the money afterwards, but what do you guys make of this situation? How would you have dealt with that if it was you? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. So our next story was cross-posted across to our own subreddit r/Mark Narrations. It's originally from Draw Standard 4848 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, and it says, Am I the Arsehole Here? For telling my heavily pregnant friend her fiance was in a documentary. Okay, it's currently 4 AM and I've been feeling so guilty right now that I can't sleep. Okay, so myself and a few girlfriends decided to watch a documentary that's been trending. Not gonna lie, I was expecting a documentary showing a human side of a certain person, but yeah, as anyone who has watched the documentary knows what it is. On to the issue. My friend's fiance was one of the 1,000. I wasn't the first person to notice, 2 other friends were the first 2 to notice. I didn't believe it at first, but with the second watch it was definitely him. Now, even though his face was covered, the body shape and especially the tattoos were undeniable. Just jumping in here, because I'm trying to think what documentary this is. All I'm seeing is 1,000 people. Dude has his face covered up. It feels like it's going one way at the moment, but we'll see. It says, we debated till the early hours of the morning if we should tell her or wait because she's 8 months pregnant. But in my opinion, if someone cheats like that, it's not their first time. And I'd rather lose a friendship for telling straight away than her finding out I knew I hid it. Because let's be real, when you tell someone news like that, there's a huge chance they hate you and not the cheater. So this Sunday morning, I asked my friend to meet up to talk. I showed her the evidence and the minute she looked at the picture, she knew it was him and broke down. I expected her to be angry at me, but she thanked me for being honest, as multiple people have hinted that she should watch the documentary instead of being upfront like I was. I ended up driving her to her mum's house. I'm guessing she told her fiance I told her because he has been blowing up my phone, calling me an evil little homewrecker, who ruins not only his life and calling me out on social media for trying to ruin his relationship and wanting his unborn daughter to grow up without a dad. My friends are angry with me for telling her straight away and not waiting till she had the baby. in case the stress would cause issues to her health. I don't give two shits if I'm being honest about her fiance, but I feel so bad for putting my friend in this situation while heavily pregnant, and I'm worried if something does happen to her, it'd be my fault, like maybe she would have watched it herself and found out on her own. Am I the arsehole here for telling my pregnant friend her fiance was in a documentary? Edit, the name of the documentary is in the comments with more info. I'm extremely tired and my mental health isn't too well right now, so I just can't be bothered to fix the post. So the top commenter on this clears it up. It says, just to be clear, since the OP wasn't, the dude was in a porn video banging a random chick with 999 other guys, apparently while already with his fiance. I'm pretty sure this is cut and dry. Lol. Yeah. OP does mention what documentary it was in the comments. I'm not going to mention the name. You don't need that appearing on your algorithms. But it's exactly what those comments said. And this is just a simple case of actions have consequences. He got found out. He's a cheater. He should have been found out. She has the right to know exactly who he is. But OP adds what they say, the only update, and says, my friend's fiance wasn't the only one of our partners to do the lineup. My boyfriend of 3 years was one. So was another friend's husband. 2 hours ago, he posted screenshots of a group chat and photographic receipts no one could deny. Other men in relationships are involved, he said in the caption. I wasn't the only one there. Tags me. Maybe check your own man before coming for my relationship. Tags 5 other women. I'm not taking the blame alone, and being seen as the bad guy while tags the men did the same. There was a lot more said, but I stopped reading and just deleted my social media account and blocked my now ex. I don't want to hear his explanation. I feel so humiliated and physically sick. I don't know how I'm going to face the co-workers or clients at work tomorrow. I wish I could just disappear. My phone is going crazy, so I'm going to turn it off and go for a long shower. Then see, can I get any sleep for what I'm sure will be hell tomorrow. Gee bloody whiz, what is going on in that town? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. If you're on mobile, you could even try and hit that hype button if you do enjoy these videos that much. It'd be really appreciated. Still not sure what it actually does, but apparently it's really good. So just a huge thank you for that as well. And I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.